So today I thought I'd take a break and maybe do some fishing, only to find out that this old 6 horsepower Evinrude fuel pump went out on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap that out today. First thing you gotta do is get this old cover off. So on the back side there's a lever. Just pull her down, lift up on the handle, and expose the engine. Up here's your carburetor. You got your fuel lines. There's your inlet from your fuel tank, outlet to your carburetor. This is your fuel pump. All we got to do is take off these 2 lines, remove the 2 mounting screws, and install the new pump. And to make sure we got our new pump, there's the part number. I'll go ahead and put a link to where I bought it down below in the comments. Good idea to match up the new one with the old one before you start taking things apart. You notice this one's a little smaller than the inlet. This is your pressure regulator, or your bleed off valve rather. But once we put that in, we'll hit the pump valve, take this loose, and make sure that fuel's getting up to it. But looks like it should work. Just want to slide these clips down. And I like to use the pliers to wiggle the line loose. Now that we've got our lines loose, we need to take the mounting screws and remove them. I should be able to just wiggle this. Yep, popped right off. New one looks about the same. It's a good idea to inspect the gasket if you're going to reuse it. This one seems fine. Don't see any issues with it. Now that I've got it apart, I can see that there's quite a bit of difference in the mounting plate and the mounting block in the original. If you try and put it on there, our original mounting screws aren't long enough. They don't. So you can either get a couple of longer screws or do what I'm about to do, avoid the warranty on your pump, and just swap out these base blocks. And pretty much just take the other 2 screws loose, take it apart. And you know the old one's bad anyway, so no harm, no foul. And I took my base block apart. And on the inside, I can see the spring. It moved sideways, and the plunger mount was stuck to the inside of the diaphragm, so it wasn't working at all. So I could try and put it back together and see if it worked, but since I've got a new one, we'll just swap the base plates out and the diaphragm with the new one. So back our screws off, and then right here is where you want to pry up. A little difficult for me to do with one hand, so I'll go ahead and pop that off there and show you the inside. So I broke it loose, and you can see everything's intact and looks the way it should. So all we're going to do is swap this out with our original base plate. Should be smooth sailing. So we're going to use the new diaphragm. You can see the inside of the old. This is the one we're getting rid of, and it looks identical to the other one. So we'll be able to just take this diaphragm, put it on the old plate, put it back together. And one thing I did notice trying to put the old plate on there was that the thread on the screws were different, so we had to go with the same screws that went on the old base plate, which no problem, they work just the same. Just put them in there. Tighten it up. Now that we've got it back together with the original base plate, all we got to do is install it. Same way you took it off. Put your screws in, bolt it up. Once you get it bolted back on, then we can go ahead and put our fuel lines back on. Same way you took them off. And then make sure you get your clips back on. Then we'll pressurize the fuel line. Take the bleeder valve loose. Make sure we get fuel coming out. Then we'll give her a test. So we got our fuel lines hooked up. I'm sure you know how to do that by now. And we'll go ahead and get our pumper ball. Keep pumping it till you get pressure up. And then we'll take that bleeder valve loose. Make sure we got fuel going up to our fuel pump. And we'll go ahead and take that loose. You can see this whole top cover comes loose. So gas will come out everywhere. Alright, so we know we got fuel coming up to it. Go ahead and tighten that back up. It's always a good idea to hook up a set of rabbit ears if you're going to do any testing. Those that don't know what they are, these are a pair I keep. And what you want to do is slide these on. See where your water vents are. And the idea is to slide that on hook your garden hose up so they can pull water in to keep it cool. It's a pretty good idea. It's also a pretty good idea to soak up any of that spilled gas or any fuel that got down in here before you go starting it up or putting spark to anything. You don't want the whole thing catching on fire. Once you get ready, you're gonna make sure you put your choke on, set it to start, give her a yank. Sounds like we got a winner. Doesn't hurt to go back, double check, make sure you don't have any leaks. Everything looks good. Maybe we can go catch us some fish now. So we can see, I finally made it out to the lake. Engine seems to be running just fine. Purrs like a kitten. That's what it's all about. That and catching a few fish if we get lucky.